It's showtime! Hey kids, it's me, Sheetlejuice. Okay, it's really just me, Tony Homeperm. Thank you so much for dropping by my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my spookiest Halloween palettes with you. Now, if you're wondering what was my criteria for choosing these palettes, allow me to explain. For the most part, almost any rainbow or smoky palette could be considered a Halloween palette. However, I wanted to show off the ones that I thought best exemplified a Halloween theme, and or had a unique color story that would work the best for a Halloween look. Of course, these are just my opinions based on my collection. I'm going to show you them in alphabetical order, and I'll be putting swatches on the screen as well. I'll put the credits for the swatches in the comments below. I was just not going to swatch all of these myself. First is the Creepy Cute palette from Shroud Cosmetics. This is considered to be one of the best pastel palettes available, even though pastels are probably not associated with Halloween. Who can deny the creepiness of this palette? Next from Chaotic Cosmetics is the Dreadful palette. I may be biased about loving this palette so much since my very good friend, Ashley Jade, is the CEO, but I'm being 100% honest when I tell you what a great Halloween palette this is. From the packaging, to the color story, to the pigmentation and formula of these shadows, it is a fantastic Halloween palette. A new addition to my Halloween palette collection is the BH Cosmetics Drop Dead Gorgeous Full On Crazy palette. I've been curious to try BH Cosmetics again, since everyone has been talking about how they've recently changed their eyeshadow formula and how good it is. I wasn't going to pick this up, but there I was in Ulta, and it just called out to me. And so, here it is. Hopefully I can shoot a video using it before this Halloween season ends. From Lunatick Cosmetics Lab, we have the Elvira Mistress of the Dark palette. What could be more Halloween and drag appropriate than this palette? It's very small, with only 6 shades, but how can you not love it? Here's a palette that I swore I would not pick up. I ranted and raved that it's just another version of the same palettes they put out all the time, but I was a complete sucker for the packaging. It's the Colourpop Gather Round Sisters palette from the Hocus Pocus collection. I have to admit, if it had been a part of any other launch, I would have skipped this without a second thought. That being said, I'm not sorry that it's in my Halloween collection. This brings us, coincidentally enough, to the very first Halloween-themed palette I ever purchased, and one that the Gather Round Sisters palette has been compared to, the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette. This is one of the shining stars of my collection. Everything about this palette is top-notch. From the packaging, the color story, even the names of the shadows. It's about as near to perfect that a Halloween palette can get. Up next is the Muerte palette from Melt Cosmetics. Interestingly enough, this launched with a companion palette called the Vita palette, which I didn't feel the need to pick up because it reminded me too much of the Melt Radioactive palette, which I already had. Of course, now I wish I had gotten it, so I had the complete set. The Muerte palette, however, is probably one of the most pigmented palettes with one of the most unique color stories that I own. I always get compliments whenever I use this palette. Okay, now I have 2 palettes from Ruby May Cosmetics, another indie makeup brand that I love. First is the Pop Zombie palette, which is a 9-pan palette that mixes brights and pastels, and all of them are highly pigmented. We also have the Purple Kush palette, which a lot of people credit as being one of the best purple palettes there is. Try saying that 3 times fast. Now, this is not Halloween or even spooky themed, but there is no denying that the color story of this palette is perfect for Halloween. You have your purples, your greens, and orange, and they are all insanely pigmented. We now come to the Sagittarius palette from Zodiac Cosmetics. Now, obviously, Sagittarius does not fall into Halloween season, but the color story of this palette is what made me decide to include it with my Halloween palettes. You have purples, a red orange, maroon, a greeny gold, a black that is one of the most pigmented blacks that I have in my collection. This palette can do double duty by being able to pull off a Halloween themed look or easily create a very wearable look with it. Of course, what could be more spine-tingling and creepy than bugs? So I had to include my Tiny Marvels palette from Sydney Grace in collaboration with Mel.thomp. This is another palette that works equally well as either a Halloween theme palette or one that you can use every day. I have to say that I just love Mel.thomp, and the quality of Sydney Grace eyeshadows is top-notch. You have all those great Halloween colors, but they're more muted. So if you just want to dip your toes into feeling a little spooky, you can definitely do so with this one without going overboard. From Ace Beauté, the Vintage Dawn palette. Not a Halloween themed palette, but the color story is very fall inspired with its mustard yellow, oranges, sage green, and maroons. This is one that works great as an autumn palette. Well, we finally reached number 13. Another one from Lunatick Cosmetics Labs, the Zombie Defense palette. I don't think you can get more Halloween spooky themed than this one. It's coffin shaped with Ouija board decor on the outside and a bat-shaped mirror on the inside. It's a very highly pigmented palette that you can certainly create a lot of fun Halloween inspired looks with. So those are my top 13 Halloween palettes because, well, it's Halloween. It has to be 13. I do want to give you a bonus though. These are my Wet n Wild Halloween 10-pan palettes. I recently did a review of them that I'll put a link to. Now the thing with these palettes is some of the colors are going to be hit or miss. However, they're only $4.98. And if you just want to have some fun doing makeup for Halloween, you can pick these up and not have to worry about breaking the bank. As I always say, you do get what you pay for. You're certainly not going to get the kind of pigmentation in these that you would from the other palettes that I showed you. But you can still have some fun with them. I would love to know what you think of my picks for Halloween palettes, and let me know if you have a favorite Halloween palette of your own. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can be alerted as soon as a new video comes out. As always, stay safe this Halloween season, and until the next time, bye-bye.